Have HBO gone off script and started adding scenes into the new HBO series that were never in the books? Or are they still maintaining that they are going for total book accuracy? And if they have gone off script, then what are the scenes that we're expecting to see? Keep watching to discover all of this and more. So welcome, wizards, witches, muggles, and squibs, back to Spellbuzz. I'm your host, Francesca Williams, and in this video, we're going to be exploring all of the new scenes that we expect to see in the new HBO series that were never in the books. But the thing is, why do we care so much? Well, for me, it's the fact that HBO have maintained that they are going for book accuracy. In fact, it's the whole reason that they've created this series, to show us the scenes that we never saw in the films that were in the original books. Basically, to televise them and show it to us through the wonders of film and TV, which I have no problem with. But then I'm kind of confused as to why they are starting to add in new scenes that weren't in the books. They're going for book accuracy. It's part of this ongoing expansion into the Wizarding world. That's not all. In fact, there's also been talks of spin-offs, and we know Hogwarts Legacy 2 is expected to also interconnect with the HBO series. So really, they're trying to bring us a more cohesive and detailed Wizarding world that we can sort of really feel immersed into. Now, this is all well and good, but how do we know that it's going to actually feel like the books and still feel like the Wizarding world that we know and love? Well, this is where J.K. Rowling comes in, because she is the executive producer. So she has basically all creative power in terms of adding in these new scenes and making sure that there is narrative consistency and that they do feel like the Wizarding world that we know and love. But how do we know that these scenes are even going to be in the series? There's a few things that have given it away. For starters, we've had actor interviews and statements that suggest it. We've also had the trailer, which has some scenes in it that kind of we know aren't in the books, and some characters in areas where we think, oh, we've not heard or seen about that, so there must be something more there. We also know that there's influencers that got to go behind scenes shortly before the trailer was released, and through their content we got to glimpse at what might become. And then also there's been some influences through leaked photos. This basically means that we saw basically actors on sets where they shouldn't have been. For example, we know that we saw Dumbledore in Gringotts. We don't hear about this in the first book, so we can infer that this has to be something to do with the Philosopher's Stone being stolen. We also know because things like Cornelius Fudge's casting has been announced, but we don't expect to see him in the Philosopher's Stone. So why would his casting have been announced so early if he is not to make an appearance in the Philosopher's Stone season 1 of the series? These are all things to mull over while I talk to you about some of the scenes we have never read but we know are going to be in the series. So let's start off with number 1, Hermione opening her Hogwarts acceptance letter. I expect that this scene will be set in her home with her Muggle dentist parents, and I hope it gives us some insight into what it's like for Hermione to grow up as a Muggle and then be thrust into the Wizarding world at the age of 11. And I hope it draws some parallels with Harry there and kind of explains their friendship also. I think it will also set up nicely for the Deathly Hallows when she obviously has to erase her parents' memory to protect them. And for me personally, I'm hoping to gain a little bit of understanding as to why she always likes to spend her summer at the Burrow rather than with her parents, and whether her relationship with her parents is still good despite her going to Hogwarts, but also the fact that she also has to make that choice between staying in the Muggle world or the Wizarding world over the summer. So I think that's something that would be really interesting to explore. And then at number 2, we have the History of Magic Professor. Professor Binns. He has already been spotted on set, and we know he is in the first book because it says on his Professor Wiki that he teaches first-year students about Uric the Oddball and Emeric the Evil. I think there is a lot of potential for him in the first series, especially to teach a History of Magic class that could link to Hogwarts Legacy. And this is because Hogwarts Legacy is set in the 1800s around Ranrock's Goblin Uprising. And this would be a great scene for HBO to include, where the History of Magic Professor is explaining this to the first-year students, and I think it would really nicely essentially line up the Hogwarts Legacy and connect the Wizarding world a little bit more. Next we have number 3, the Gryffindor Girls' Dormitories. I believe this is just a kind of a visual moment where we get to see the interior of the Gryffindor Girls' Dormitories, but I'm quite excited for this because I really think it's an opportunity to enrich some of the female characters in the show, because in the films we know some of their personalities were watered down a little bit, or maybe not true to the books, which I have spoken about before. I think it'll be exciting to see the way they choose to decorate their rooms, and also to kind of see that dynamic if we do get to see that, because we know Hermione and Lavender Brown obviously fall out later in the series. So it would be interesting to see how they all function in the dormitory together. I mean, personally, the thing I'm most hoping to see, but I'm not sure if we will, are the stone steps leading up to the girls' dormitories turning into a slide when a boy tries to climb them. I think that is something that obviously Hermione speaks about, but it will just be so funny and good to watch because it really shows the magic of Hogwarts Castle. And then at number 4, we have Nicolas and Perenelle Flamel. Now, these people have already been spotted behind the scenes, and we already know we have them as canon as they appeared in Crimes of Grindelwald, the Fantastic Beasts film. And the thing is, a lot of fans didn't like the way they were portrayed in the Crimes of Grindelwald film. So I wonder how they will portray them in the series. But I think really they're there to enrich the story of the Philosopher's Stone and show us its creator a little bit more. And then following on from that, at number 5, we have Dumbledore's past. I think to an extent, Dumbledore we already have seen in a lot of the Fantastic Beasts films and his past, but I think they're once again going to use that to help enrich the story of the Philosopher's Stone a little bit more and bring a little bit more mystery surrounding it, because they can. So why not? Especially if J.K. Rowling's there and she's basically helping to make sure the story stays cohesive. I think it's a great time to add Dumbledore back into the mix. Also, if you want to know a little bit more about Dumbledore's story, we actually have a video on the channel all about Dumbledore's life story. So head over to our channel to watch it. And then at number 6, we have politics. Now, this is something that I find really interesting to include in the first film because I think it sets the stage really nicely for the rest of the series. So we know this because Cornelius Fudge's casting has been announced, but he doesn't necessarily appear in the Philosopher's Stone book. So what are they going to do with that? Now, my personal theory is that they're going to basically show the impact Voldemort's downfall had on the whole wizarding world, including within the Ministry. And I also think it's just going to show some clips in the Ministry of Magic. Now, the reason I say this would link to Cornelius Fudge as well is because we know Lucius Malfoy is going to be in season 1. So I wonder if we're going to see some of the Ministry of Magic, some of the trials of people saying they were under the Imperious Curse, which is why they did what they did, and also see how it had a lasting impact and how Lucius Malfoy was essentially able to come back from that and how the wizards were able to come back from that. And I hope to see visuals of the Ministry, of what it looks like at the time of the Philosopher's Stone, as obviously we know it changes as we go through the books, and our first glimpse of it is in the Order of the Phoenix, but I'm kind of hoping that we get to see it a little bit earlier as well, and maybe it'll be a bit more lighter and brighter and happier in season 1, and then by the time you get to the Order of Phoenix, because you know everyone knows Voldemort is back, whether they're denying it or not, it should be a little bit darker and gloomier. So I think that's really exciting also. On to number 7, which is Lucius Malfoy and Malfoy Manor. We hope that we get to see Malfoy Manor, but we know for sure that there has been some scenes not in the books that include both Draco and Lucius Malfoy. Now, this has been confirmed by Lux Pratt, Draco Malfoy, and Johnny Flynn, Lucius Malfoy. Now, there are some theories surrounding about how we might see them. As I say, I've already given you one theory about Lucius Malfoy, but there are some more, such as a little glimpse of Lucius and Draco at Madame Malkin's robes. Also, maybe a glimpse of them on platform 9 3/4. And possibly we might see some Draco flashback moments about his time at Malfoy Manor, his childhood. Possibly it'd be interesting to see how they do that, but I think it would also enrich the story, especially about the whole redemption arc at the end of the Malfoys. So I'd be intrigued for the way they set it up so that we get to see Deathly Hallows in its full force with all the details, you know. The first series, is really a way to set up the rest of it. And I think that's why they're giving us these extra details also. And then at number 8, we have the Burrow. Now, this is not shown in the first book or described in the first book, but Catherine Parkinson, Molly Weasley, said she was speechless when she walked into her character's home, which means she must have seen the Burrow, so the set has been built and she must have filmed on it.
Walking into my character's home for the first time was like, because when you've read the books and then you see it realised in the way your imagination had conjured it, you sort of think that's a very lovely feeling.
So I'm intrigued to see what they have filmed in the Burrow, but I'm kind of hoping that it's also Ron's opening his Hogwarts acceptance letter, because I think that would give us a really nice parallel for all 3 members of the trio to open their Hogwarts acceptance letter, which links back to the Malfoys because we might also get to see Draco opening his as well. I really think it's a nice way to show family dynamics as well and really introduce the Weasleys and possibly set up a strong base for Ginny Weasley, who once again was a little bit forgotten in the films. And then at number 9, we have the Pensieve, which is obviously not shown until the 4th film, or the 4th book, but it may be used in the Philosopher's Stone to show some of Dumbledore's memories and also just show some flashback scenes. I really think it's just going to be a vessel for flashbacks when they want to enrich the story, essentially. And then at number 10, we have the dirt on Ron's nose. Now, we're kind of hoping to see that this will be, we know Molly Weasley tries to rub it off on the station platform, and then obviously Hermione talks about it on the train. But I wonder if it's something to do with the flu network, or maybe a prank that Fred and George played on Ron before he got to the station for his first day at Hogwarts. So it'd be really exciting to also set up that Weasley family dynamic. Now, that is all the information that I have for you today, but as always, I have 2 questions for you to answer down in the comments. The first one being, of all the scenes I've just listed, which one are you most excited to see? And the second one is, what else do you hope that they add? Now, as always, please remember to like and subscribe as it helps me to bring more videos to you. And over on our channel, we have many more HBO and other Harry Potter videos, so head over there and check them out. That's all from me today. Bye bye now.